All right. Good morning. PT on Ice Daily Show. We're here with Fitness Athlete Friday. I'm your host, Alan, CEO of ICE, Fitness Athlete Faculty, talking about all things fitness athlete here on Fridays. Apologize. Got to start a little bit early this morning. Got some stuff to do today right after this. Rolled my car over on the highway this morning, so I've got to go take care of some business after this, but still made it for the 7 a.m. workout, so all good. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about back squats versus belt squats. So we're talking about an article that just came out in this month's, or actually next month's, December's issue of Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. So the article by the NSCA. This article is titled Kinetic Analysis of Isometric Back Squats versus Isometric Belt Squats. So looking at what's going on in the spine, in the hip, in the knee, in the ankle, doing a back squat, a barbell back squat versus a belt squat. If you don't know what a belt squat is basically wearing a kind of a weightlifting belt around your hips and then having a heavy chain, standing over some jerk blocks or maybe in the clinic on two treatment plinths and having some dumbbells, kettlebells, plates, whatever you have, hanging from the chain and then going through a squat. So the researchers here wanted to look at what's happening in the lumbar spine, in the hips, in the knees, and the ankles, looking at back squat versus belt squat. So really sound methodology here. Love the attention to detail that the research team had with this article. They controlled everything down to what the athletes wore, right? So they had them wear the same clothes. They had them wear spandex shirt and shorts. That's probably to help with the motion capture analysis a little bit, but they standardized the clothing, they even standardized the shoes. They made them wear a hat to capture what's going on up in the head and neck. So really sound methodology. I like the attention to detail in this article. They warmed up just the same. They had a standardized warm-up protocol that they had each athlete go through, and then they split the athletes up doing back squats versus belt squats. They had them do isometric holds, so they had them go in 4 different positions, and they decided to go with a 45-degree thigh angle as the angle to look at as far as isometric load goes in this study. No external weight here, so either just the weight of the barbell in the back rack position for the back squat, or just the weight of the belt and the chain for the belt squat. Results, I laughed out loud when I read the first sentence of the results section. It's a weird thing to start the results section with. Men on average were taller and heavier than women. Unrelated at all to the kinetic analysis, but it just made me laugh that they started the results section with that. So what do we actually care about in this article, besides starting off with the weird sentence, is that the peak ground reaction forces were higher in the belt squat. The knee joint moment and the ankle moment were higher. The hip moment was about the same. And what we actually care about, what we're looking at here, is that the force moment in the low back was reduced significantly in the belt squat versus the back squat, which is what we would expect. So taking the weight from the back, not loading the spine, moving it down to the pelvis seems to reduce the strain on the low back significantly, looking at back squat versus belt squat, which is good because this tells us that we can reduce the stress on the lumbar spine for somebody who's having back pain, somebody that can't tolerate back squats or deadlifts, maybe due to flexion intolerant low back pain. We can still load this person's legs up, and we know that the ground reaction force is pretty much similar with the back squat versus the belt squat. So we can keep somebody loaded heavily, keep their legs loaded, maintain or even increase their leg strength doing belt squats if they can't tolerate a back squat. Very similar if they have something going on with their shoulder, they can't get into a front rack or hold a kettlebell for a front squat or a goblet squat. They can't load their upper extremities just like they can't load their back due to some sort of pain or range of motion restriction. We can still load them up heavy with a belt squat and load those legs, get those legs strong nonetheless. So really cool analysis here. Very thorough. They even did kinetic analysis on each athlete's unweighted air squat, so just a squat with no weight out in space, right? And they found that the stress at the low back in the belt squat is almost identical to the stress on the low back during an air squat, which there is basically none. Newer athletes may have that immature squat pattern where they fold forward a lot, and that can place a lot of stress on the low back, but an unloaded air squat is not very stressful, and we found that the belt squat had similar force motions at the lumbar spine as an unloaded air squat. So very low stress way to load the legs for those athletes who can't tolerate load in their back or who can't assume a front rack or a goblet squat position due to something going on with the shoulders, whether it's pain, range of motion, or maybe post rotator cuff repair or something like that. So great thing to implement into the clinic, right? I can see this going on in the clinic. Push two treatment plinths together, stand up on it, put a belt on, and load up some dumbbells or kettlebells, and you can knock out some belt squats in the clinic. Certainly, we can do it here in the gym. We can stand up in a squat rack on the safety bars, or even use the jerk blocks, the Olympic weightlifting jerk blocks, to stand up on and do belt squats. So belt squats, great way to load the legs, very low back safe exercise. The limitation to this article is that it was unloaded, right? So they only had the weight of the barbell for the back squat, and they only had the weight of the belt and chain for the belt squat. So does the kinematics change under load? Maybe. The authors admit in their limitation section that it's unloaded, and we're just kind of assuming what's going on with external force calculations with motion analysis. It's not a good representation of what's actually going on internally inside the joint. The authors themselves admit that, and it's a good limitation to know. The authors they said they want to retry this article. They want to try a 5 rep max or an 8 rep max protocol. Go as heavy as you can for a 5 rep max or an 8 rep max, and then retest the same kinetics here and see if it's same loaded as it is unloaded, which I think is a great way to take this research further, just to further cement that belt squats are a good way to load the legs without endangering the back, or for those athletes who have problems with their shoulders or range of motion limitations getting into a back squat, front squat, or goblet squat, or even an overhead squat. So consider belt squats. It's a pretty low cost way to load the legs as well, equipment-wise. If we look at the cost of a barbell and plates, or if we look at the cost of getting a bunch of heavy kettlebells, certainly it's much cheaper to buy a weightlifting belt and some chain and some plates, probably cheaper than any of those other options. So not only is it an effective way to load the legs in an athlete or higher level patient with back pain or shoulder injury, it's a cheap way to do it too. So look at belt squats. Again, this article is called Kinetic Analysis of Isometric Back Squats and Isometric Belt Squats, from the December 2018 issue of Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. So I'll post a link to that article, probably not right away. As I said, I've got to go take care of my destroyed car and some other stuff. But I will post that article probably later this afternoon or this evening as soon as I can. This weekend, Jeff is down in Birmingham, Alabama for cervical spine course. There's still time to catch that if you're on the fence. Next weekend, Dustin and Christina are in St. Louis, Missouri at House Fit for the first cohort of the Modern Management of the Older Adult live course. So we've taken the traditional online course that we've had for about a year now, and they've developed a 2-day live version. So if you want to catch that, there's still time to catch that next weekend in St. Louis. Last course of the year is going to be Justin up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, teaching total spine thrust manipulation. So if you want to catch a live course, that is your last chance for 2018. After that, we'll be taking a few weeks break from live courses. We'll still have a couple online courses rolling, but we'll be taking a few week break for the holidays, and then we start back up. Your next chance to catch us live for Fitness Athlete Live is the same weekend. You can catch Mitch or Zach. I can't believe they're still doing this, scheduling courses on the same weekend. But same weekend, January 12th and 13th, you can either catch Mitch and I up in Minneapolis, or you can catch Zach down at his home base in Charlotte, North Carolina. So 2 chances, same weekend, to catch us out there live. The next cohort of Fitness Athlete Essential Foundations with Mitch and I is January 7th, and then Advanced Concepts with Zach and Mitch kicks off again January 20th. So that's all I've got for you. I am going to go probably buy a nice used car, I think. So we'll go get that taken care of. Try out belt squats, play around with them in the gym if you have the equipment, and just kind of see how they feel. Should feel very similar to a front squat or a goblet squat. But try those out, see how they feel. You'll notice they feel a lot less stressful on your low back than a traditional back squat. So play with those. Belt squats versus back squats. Belt squats, a lot more friendly to the low back. Try them out. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next time.